Still give it a couple of minutes. Y'all can just hang out. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is where all the rotten vegetables are coming. No, kind of looks like it though. Oh no, we're dead. Probably start. They don't even hear my spiel. And even Mike, how will they pick us up? There's some light back there. Maybe. I think there's some lights back there. Just built in something? Yeah. Okay. You were a smart man. You got it. We'll see how good their aim is. Already? Yes, having trouble connecting. We have an outside engineering firm that's been involved with some of the corridor work all along Bygland Road, and they're going to be trying to jump in on the Zoom meeting. So we'll give them another minute or two and see if they can get in. We're having a little trouble connecting. They might want to hear some of the front end stuff so they can maybe reply to that also. Maybe one more minute. We'll go at 7:02. Say again. Oh, good. All right. Is he on? All right. Tell me when he's on, if you would, please. Thank you. All right. So, ready to get underway? Okay. Good evening and welcome. Thanks for coming. Of course, we're here to talk about the possibility of the roundabout at Bygland and Rhinehart. If I could just, to show of hands, how many people in this room they live or have property within, let's say, 1 block of the proposed roundabout site? How many? Okay. And how many are from other parts of the community? Just here. Okay. So maybe 3/4 are pretty closely affected by.
What about 2 blocks?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for that. You know, we've talked about roundabout off and on for quite a few years, and one thing we realized is we really haven't connected one-on-one with folks right adjacent to the roundabout. And we got some feedback from folks, even good folks who work for the city, who said, you know, when are you going to talk to us? Be pretty helpful. And of course, some of those conversations have happened just casually, but it's time, I think, to, you know, just back and forth. You know, what are your thoughts on if it goes in, if it looks this certain way, you know, how does that affect each individual property, or does it? And what can we do around the horn if it does affect that property to leave you at least as well off afterward as you are going in? Just to review how we got here, you know, every 4 years we get federal dollars. They call them federal sub-target dollars that we can use on like road projects that qualify for their certain parameters of this money that we can get every 4 years from the Fed. We try to always put it to the best and highest use, to the biggest benefit, the greatest good that we can. We look at it as your money, as our own money. It's not just federal dollars that you can blow frivolously. It's our money. If we use it properly, it takes away dollars that our local residents would have to spend on that same infrastructure. So just know right at the start, that's how we look at these federal dollars. They're, pennies, nickels, and dimes that everybody's saved up, and we're going to put them to the best use that we possibly can. The amount available for this cycle right now is $860,000. So it's real money. 4 years ago, in roughly 2018, there was a consideration to put this roundabout into that federal sub-target position. The council debated it and decided not at this time. So that was about 4 years ago in 2018. Say again? Oh, sorry. And but then at that time, it was placed into the 2022 federal sub-target position. And depending on who you talk to, it was either to say, hey, if we're not doing it now, we're doing it in 2022, period. Or some would say, no, just a placeholder. So that when we got to that date, we could really have that debate and consider what are we going to do with that money. So some felt like it was locked in for 2022. Some just a placeholder that we can have this conversation now and decide what to do with it. We do definitely have a vehicular access problem all up and down the whole corridor of Bygland Road. It's especially worse for people, about 7:40 in the morning to 8:10, people living to the west wanting to turn left. We know we have a problem with that all up and down the way, and it seems it could be a logical solution if we could fix it and folks could get in and go. And so, if somebody just built it for free, we'd take it. So nobody wonders if it would help. It would help. Nobody wonders if our dear residents could figure out how to use it. We know you can. We're smart. We'd use it once or twice and say, okay, cool, we got this. We go on here, we go off here, bang, bang, go to our normal place. We have no worries about that whatsoever. But my top concern along Bygland Road corridor, and I don't know if anyone else shares it, but it's been pedestrians. We've got school there, and then some cross and head south to the middle school, and then residential, all the kids coming across. We have reports from parents, people living along there, a lot of close calls between pedestrians and cars. It's like one mom that lives near there said, I couldn't even look out the window anymore, too many close calls, especially in the fall of the year where the kids are, using bikes and walking to school. And yet I think we've really set that up well with a hawk system. It's a pedestrian activated. So you're coming up with your car, there's nothing there. But if someone activates it, the light turns yellow for a period of time, and then it turns red, just like you're coming up to a red light at an intersection. And you sit there until the pedestrian safely crosses. So that's what a hawk system does. They're all around the country. Grand Forks has some along University Avenue. They're in Minot. I was just there. They were around Boise, Idaho, and they really do save lives. And they could be, traditionally they used to be only in the middle of the block, but more and more we're seeing them able to be used at intersections like 13th. So honestly, my number one concern was pedestrian safety, particularly there. And I think the council and the staff and everybody who's gotten that set up, that's going to be taken care of in the hopper now to be completed. So now last year, the majority of the council on a 4-3 vote chose to allocate our 2022 federal sub-target dollars to the roundabout right here. Okay, the majority of the council 4-3. Our mayor, and it died for the moment, and there it was. Then at a subsequent council meeting on a 3-3 tie on 10th Street Northeast, which is the road that runs along the abandoned railroad tracks just inside our industrial park. It runs east and west from the Water and Light Distribution Center, kind of heading straight out to the east there. It's all broken up. Some was just gravel, some is completely broken up. So that was identified on a 3-3 tie to be our federal sub-target project for 2022. And the mayor broke the tie in favor of 10. So that is the project of record to use our federal sub-target dollars for that. Well, that project is hitting a few snags also, as inevitably any project would, leaving a question about, can we do that in the time constraints that we have? Is it going to fit? And so that caused us to say, well, let's let the two projects kind of move forward in parallel. The possibility of the roundabout here and the identified project currently still, which has a very slim 3-3 majority. Actually, now it's back to 4-3, probably against. That's how tight our council is on what's our top priority for this $860,000. And so all of this created a bit of a time lag that kept us from getting things ready in 2022. And so we swapped with Polk County for their federal sub-target dollars and moved our project into 2023. That's where it stands now. Whatever we're doing is front-end work for a build, hopefully in 2023, whatever that project will be. We don't want to let the money go away. It's dollars we need. You know, we have infrastructure needs throughout our community. And so that is where that stands. And again, I have no concern about how the roundabout would function if it was built. No worries about that. And again, my greatest concern is cost against the many other needs that we have, and certainly, you know, adjacent property owners affected and whatnot. So we have that. And you know what? If the roundabout is still a priority, that could happen and probably will happen somewhere down the way. This is a good conversation to have, particularly with you, the ones close by, most affected by having it go in. You know, we're always having an eye toward the greater good. You know, what's the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people, but also make it work for those that would have some adverse effect. We're committed to that as well. One of the hardest things for any one of us to manage is the unknown. You know, if you don't know what the layout of the roundabout would be, and if you don't know how tight it might be to your driveway or to anything else, right away the mind starts to go sideways and maybe assume the worst. So by the time, you know, it's actually starting to go in our mind, it's way worse than reality. So really we have a chance here, I think, to bring out the true story. You'll see the actual proposed alignment. Nothing's been absolutely finalized. And then consider what that would mean to you as property owners and residents right adjacent to this thing. And then with the help of our city engineer and others, we will be able to then look at each property one by one and say, is there an effect, yes or no? How could we still give you proper access and egress from your property, even in spite of that? So with that, I will ask our city engineer, Steve Emery with WITSET, speak to the details of the project and begin to answer any questions you might have. He'll have just a brief presentation, and other city council members, other city staff might want to come on in and answer questions too, because everyone has a little different area of expertise. So now you know how we got here. You know we have identified still 10th as the project of record, and yet we're going to have to still keep everything moving so that when these projects are due to be built, you know, when that intersection starts to really fail, and we don't want anybody getting killed or injured there, we want to stay ahead of that. So that's why we're doing this. And Steve, if you would just take it from here.
Yeah, so thank you, man. We didn't have time to compare notes here totally before, so we may duplicate on a few things. But again, yeah, I am Steve Emery, the city's consulting city engineer. I have brought on board, and I think they're online, Mike Anderson and Nicole Gulick with Alliant Engineering. Alliant Engineering actually in 2015 completed the Bygland Road study, where they studied the entire 2.5 mile corridor from basically from the Red Lake River down on South Bygland to the limits. Again, about a 2.5 mile corridor there. So again, Alliant Engineering completed that study. So we felt they got the roundabout experience. They completed the study, so they were a good fit to bring on as a sub-consultant to help us through this process. So based on the results from the study, overwhelmingly, the community's highest preference was to install traffic control devices at Bygland and Rhinehart and Bygland and 13. Again, like the mayor already alluded to, we are looking at putting in a hawk system at that intersection for pedestrian safety. So again, that was our #1 concern. The second intersection, of course, is the Bygland Rhinehart intersection here. And some of the feedback that they got through the study was traffic speed. We need to wait to slow down traffic, calm traffic. It's a long, wide corridor. It lends itself to people driving fast. Also, allowing more gaps for street traffic to enter on Bygland. Any of you that, kind of live in this area, live on the southern part of the community, I mean, if you're trying to get out onto Bygland Road in the morning during that peak period, you can sit there for a fair amount of time just trying to get onto Bygland to make that left turn. So as part of the traffic study, Alliant did look at essentially two potential options to improve accessibility at the intersection. One was traffic signals, and the other one was, the roundabout. Out of the study, basically, they recommended the roundabout for basically the following reasons. So the roundabout will provide the most efficient traffic control device with the least overall delays, considering a 24-hour day, weekends, and non-school days. The roundabout improves access onto Bygland Road, which was a key issue raised by the community, so it addresses that. Again, the roundabout will provide traffic calming with reduced traffic speeds. Typically your traffic coming through that road 50 miles per hour. So, and it's going to really help slow that traffic down as they come through there. Again, the roundabout is going to improve pedestrian access and safety with basically the center line or center medians. They'll have basically in the middle of them, they'll have almost a refuge too. So basically those kids, as they're crossing it, they kind of cross in two stages. You cross half the street, stop in the center if there's traffic coming, and then make their secondary move rather than trying to cross a 45-foot street in one motion. So, and another thing that really important, none of these projects can happen without funding. And when you look at traffic signals, there's specific warrants that need to be met to put in a traffic signal. This intersection does not meet the necessary warrants. So basically the city would not be able to use their federal sub-target dollars or state aid dollars on this project. That's one thing I should bring up. The city of East Grand Forks is considered a state aid city. So we do on an annual basis receive state aid dollars that we can help to maintain, build kind of our state aid system. And then like the mayor alluded to also, every 4 years, again, we do, being a state aid city, we do receive the federal sub-target dollars. And again, like the mayor said, in the amount of about $860,000. So, and this project is eligible for those federal sub-target dollars, but then we also have state aid funds that we get up the additional cost, above and beyond what we're going to get in federal sub-target dollars. So. And then just as, the point area continues to grow, traffic volumes are only going to increase. And as time goes on, accessibility is just going to get more difficult. I think a lot of you have even heard the council in the city of Grand Forks are probably communicating more now than they ever have to try to get a bridge at 32nd Avenue. Studies have shown there too, if we get that bridge, the level of service at the intersection is going to, even continue to get worse. So basically, we're really trying to get out in front of this before it becomes a bigger issue. So I think with that, that's probably enough background. So I don't know if we wanted any other council members have anything to say. If we want to turn it over for questions.
Does our friend in the line have anything to add?
Mike, do you have anything you want to add? Can you hear us, I hope? It's a good sign. Oh. Nicole, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't have anything in particular to add at this time.
Okay. So basically what we have up on the screen is basically the current configuration that we've been kind of working on. Like the mayor said, nothing at this point is set in stone. Everything is still proposed. So, I think, is there anything we want to go over specific, Mayor, or do we just turn it over to questions? Or?
It wouldn't bother me at all. I would love it if individual property owners with a concern, okay, I live on this street and I want to come and go from my house with my driveway. What does that look like in this proposed layout? That is the sort of thing that I think is appropriate for a meeting like this. Did you say you had a something you wanted to share or a question or something? Yes, sir.
Okay. Number one, I'd like to ask, how many people in this room are for this roundabout? How many people are against it? Raise your hand. Okay, so now you said you did a study.
Yep.
How many people did you go talk to? 0. How many people did you go talk to? Plain and simple, easy question.
Like
This isn't rocket science.
Study start, so that's why we have it on the line.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, can you hear us?
I will
okay,
tell you,
there was about, from what I understand, there was 20 letters that was sent out to citizens around this area.
No, there was. You didn't get one?
No,
We didn't get one.
no. And you know what? The reason a lot of people got them is I made copies and a couple of my neighbors went around the neighborhood and passed them out. This, you don't listen to the people.
we do though.
No, you don't. No.
Wait,
Okay,
did I
listen
say,
to the people.
did I say we don't this?
Yes, and I appreciate that you did the
Yeah,
first.
I was
one.
listening.
Okay, so then I was at the first meeting. And I brought you a report from the DOT of Minnesota that says a traffic circle should not and is a safety hazard to be in a residential area. Do you recall it?
I absolutely do recall that.
I gave a copy to every,
Ask anyone in this room if I'm on record as saying, I don't believe that roundabouts improve pedestrian safety. I don't believe that they do. And I mean, there are lots of studies out there that verify if it's a heavy pedestrian area, it doesn't get better with a roundabout. It's really good for traffic and it's not so good for pedestrians.
here's about the traffic on that road. The primary traffic on this road is north to south, south to north.
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you what. They will shoot through going north. They'll shoot through going south. It isn't going to slow anything down. And all we're doing is spending money that you maybe say we get all these dollars, but I'll tell you what, all this money belongs to the people in this room.
Yep.
And you know what? It's about time, and I know we're maybe not going to change it, but it's maybe about time that communities say, whoa, we've got inflation that's insane. We got gas prices that are insane. We cannot afford it, period. And you know what? We're not going to change the whole country. I understand that. I'm not naive. But
It's hard.
just
Excuse me, I'll jump in. We look at the repair that we did on that street. It's just been a few years ago. It's hard to take up good pavement and put this in. We get it, right? If it's going to happen, it would just feel bad to pick up perfectly good pavement and replace it with a roundabout. Just know, everybody, we're all aware of that. Yeah, it doesn't sit well with us.
and second of all, the reason he's only put out 20 memos, I printed up 100 copies of that, and I went around the community and talked to everybody about it. And you know what? You know whose responsibility that is?
All of ours.
Clarence Vetter.
No.
That is Clarence Vetter's responsibility. He's our representative. Has he come around and asked anybody anything? Absolutely nothing. And
I will say
and you know
that
what? Here's the thing about it is, there's places, if we gotta spend money, I can give you a couple examples of where we should spend it.
oh, you have plenty of places to spend money. Please
Well,
don't worry about that.
Well, I know it, but we shouldn't
Community
be.
wide.
We shouldn't be.
Well, I think we have, but
I understand
Okay,
where you're coming
why don't you
from.
give me your top three? Because, and then we're gonna go on to
Okay,
another. top 3 of priorities for spending money, please.
Okay. Number one, coming off of, I don't know if you want to call it the Point Bridge or whatever, during the flood on the East Grand Forks side, it is so low, we have to shut down that bridge because of the way the approach is on the East Grand
Will
Forks
that come
side.
up a bit with their project, or will it stay the same?
And so maybe this money would be better spent resolving that issue.
Okay, how about number 2?
Okay, number 2. Everybody, I mean, I've talked to all the news people. Number 2, the best place for a roundabout in this town is over by Luigi's.
That'd be a good,
That is the best place for a roundabout.
very good. I think and I'm not a big fan of roundabouts, just so you know.
You know what I am?
But the one, how about at the bottom of the Point Bridge would work? And how about the River Road at 17? That's a cluster right there. Okay, so there if you like roundabouts, about 4 or 5 of them would be nice.
You know what? As I talked to the people from the Grand Forks Herald
Yes.
and KBLY and all of them, they said, "Oh, you're against roundabouts." I said, "No, I'm not." In the mid-70s, I was in the military over in Europe. I've driven on the largest roundabout in the world that's in Paris.
Around the arc.
That's correct.
How about 8-10 lanes each? Yeah.
It's 8 lanes.
Oh, what's your 3rd priority for spending?
And I know we probably couldn't get into it, but over by Ace Hardware, that intersection there, I don't know if,
Okay, so then you're saying a block south of Highway 2.
well, where all the stoplights by Holiday
Oh, that one.
and all that. The amount of traffic out here, and I have done it, and one other person has done it. At peak times, it takes you 7 minutes to pull out. And the thing about it is, I've also talked to law enforcement. I'm retired, so I got a lot of time to do stuff. So,
I come to meetings.
yeah. So passing on the right is illegal.
But it happens all the time.
Okay, how do you fix that? You put in a yellow line and have law enforcement give out tickets for a few months, it'll stop.
All right.
And you know what? I was told not to bring this up, but I'm gonna anyway.
Wait, that's 4. We said 3.
Okay, I've got 3 pages. of
We're gonna have to go, but you go ahead. One more. What do you got?
stuff. Merge lanes
Yeah,
and
like coming south off the Point Bridge, turn right, merge lanes on. Yeah, like what I just sent you on an email. Yeah, those
well,
would be cool.
even out here. As you come off of any of these streets,
Yep, get up to speed and then signal in and go, especially in an area where you don't need to park. That's one of the other keys. If it's an area where you
but
may
we
need
got,
to park.
we got a street that's almost,
Yeah,
it's 4 lanes.
but you would just want to pick areas where you don't really ever see cars parked. So that would be the perfect spot, southbound coming off the Point Bridge.
Now-
Nobody parks.
The other thing is, and then I'll stop. I won't go through my whole list.
Thank
because You don't want to listen.
We owe you.
We are, or not we, you are, as far as the city, gonna destroy people's property values. I don't care what you say.
So you
are
feel like the roundabout would, or just generally we're doing that? Oh, I see.
The roundabout will destroy people's values. And a business who I've been in.
You know, it's funny, Kay, that you say that because.
So now,
Let me respond to Kay just real quick. Because like when I think of my mother trying to get on to Bygland Road when she was living, she had her own car and she was a pretty good driver, but she probably quit driving when she was in her like late 80s, about 90. And the fact that there's no control structure along Bygland anywhere from out in the country all the way to the Point Bridge, there's no control structure. Some older person who's like faculties and decision making are diminished. So I honestly, I don't want to disagree because Kay and I go way back. I was thinking the roundabout would be that way for older ones to safely navigate and get up and go. But yeah, we don't want to hurt. I mean, maybe we can help them.
you're going to destroy their business.
Yeah, we won't let that happen. But I'm hearing it.
You are with this.
I'm hearing you loud and clear. But yeah. Yeah. Right.
So we need to let
Currently, ordinance, let me ask a question. Currently, ordinance has 2 access points. One off of Fifth, one off Rhinehart.
Yep.
In that configuration, we're still providing, not in the same exact location, where we're still providing an access off of Fifth, and we're providing an access off of Rhinehart. So I guess my question is, how are we destroying the business for providing the same access?
Or we get semi there. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, or we get semi there.
Semi is designed to accommodate that truck need. Yes.
Now, when I see all these farm trucks come down,
Yeah.
I don't work it.
How about all the agricultural equipment that's going to try to come through that traffic circle?
So let me just have a show of hands one more time. Who really wants the roundabout? And who says no thank you? Okay. I see your hand over here with a question, sir, and you've been so patient.
What's going to happen to the fire truck? I look at these and I drove semi. 50. Always come along the roads.
Well, we have council members here that are hearing this, and it's important for us all to be cognizant of the preference of the people we serve. Those are nasty for. Yep. That's much. Yes, sir. Oh, I see you too, Dan. Oh, yeah, we need it.
All right, Chuck.
This is my house.
Yep.
How would you like to have to go all the way around that?
So basically what we're looking at there is we have this center refuge median. We would actually leave right here. This would be basically multiple refuge island. So you would still have access as you come there. What's that?
How safe is that?
Safe as it is now.
Yeah.
Safe as it is now. It's just the same cars coming.
Okay, so my next question is every car coming through here is gonna shine right through my living room. Right through the. How are you gonna take that part of my problem?
You're okay.
So I bought this house a year ago. This is the biggest purchase I've ever made. I'm pretty fucking proud of it. And this pisses me off. That there's gonna be a roundabout in my front yard.
How do you get out of your driveway? Just so
Yeah, so me backing out of my driveway. How do I know if they're gonna go around this way or come this way? It's- They got a turn signal. I never have an issue. In my driveway. I can do it at 8 in the morning. I can do it at 5 at night. I get home at 5:30. takes me, maybe I gotta wait 30 seconds. to turn around.
One thing you have, is now you got traffic coming at 50 miles an hour.
So change the speed limit. That's a pretty simple. Now, how about the transformer? As long as we're talking.
Yeah, that's gonna have to, it would have to be relocated. That's right.
Yes, and I've got reliable information that it's $400,000.
140 to 150 is the number we've been told. Well, how much? 135, yeah. I'm sorry, let's run around hands.
Why can't you put it on the street like that? That we can't. What do we have to do?
Traffic light.
Yeah. Can we do that under the-
I don't know if the line, got a line to hear us.
6. Okay, go ahead, 6.
The biggest thing with the traffic lights,
No, you can't read it because we already tried that.
Let's-
Somebody interrupted.
No, you can't have a 4-way stop there, but a regular traffic light might work. I'm not saying we should, but it would be an option. That would be on the table. Yes, ma'am, Diana. Oh, I'm sorry, traffic light. So it does have to meet a warrant from MnDOT to even do it. And we did the study a second time at 13, trying for a full signalized intersection there. And they have like 8 different elements that you have to meet. We met one, the number of pedestrians for a short burst during the back to school period in the fall. And therefore they said, really, it would be a big stretch to go to a full signalized intersection there. You could do the Hawk system to cover the pedestrian element, and no other intersection along the corridor meets the warrant for a traffic light. Therefore, we would not be able to put it. They will tell you, you will open yourself up to litigation because when you put in a non-warranted traffic signal, if somebody gets hurt there, so it's really, people don't do it. That's why you have MnDOT doing the study, and the warrants are either met or they're not, numbers of cars and whatnot. And that's what we're up against. I'm all 100 times I've said, what about a 4-way stop? What about a traffic signal? Anything but a roundabout, anything. Help me.
and the biggest thing is like I said, when they don't meet the warrants, the city cannot use the federal subsidy dollars
Or state aid money.
or
either.
state aid money. So if we put up a traffic signal, $500,000, that's got to come directly out of city funds. They will receive no funding for that project. And again, I want to.
So how about the report from the DOT that says you shouldn't have a traffic circle in a residential area? So if a traffic circle doesn't meet the requirements in a residential area, why can't, well, then, so stoplight shouldn't either, okay?
You know, MnDOT has done so many studies. And they have a lot of other studies that show that they do work in residential areas. I mean, so they contradict themselves. They do. And so, you know, one study can say this, and the next study with a slightly different set of ground rules will say a little different conclusion. So I can't say, you know, universally, we can't say that roundabouts in residential areas are bad, but they really don't improve, in my view, and I've read lots of articles about it. They don't improve the condition for pedestrians. It's really good for traffic.
It works.
It's also not good for bicyclists. They do not fare well in and out of a roundabout. They just don't. I'm sorry, Diana's been very patient.
My question is, that's my question. I have a little bit of background in concrete, and 860,000 is not going to cover it. I can't.
No.
Cover the cost. So do you have any clue what the total cost is? Do you have funds set aside? Is this a new tax? Is it going to be allocated? Where is this money coming from?
Right.
Because I think that buying out houses, 860,000, our taxes went up last year. I just am curious, where I want to know how realistic any of it is. Because to me, I really,
Right
I've
now,
done enough construction.
right now, we're estimating around 1.5 million. Again, 860,000 is coming from the federal sub targets. Again, like I talked, the city annually, it's state aid allocation
So
dollars.
what would that allocation be?
But
What would that allocation be?
that would basically cover the balance.
Really? And
The
all
city-
the buyouts, you know what it's gonna cost to buy out
Well,
all these
not
houses?
Talking buyouts right now, I'm just talking construction dollars for the roundabout.
Your taxes are going up.
So the dollars, depending on how this goes, you know, if we can minimize the impact to the adjacent properties, that's gonna, of course, save a ton of cost. And that's really what we're hoping to do. We've treated this layout up and down and right and left to try to really avoid impacting the properties as much as we possibly can. Just for that, I mean, it's a convenience and a courtesy to you all, but it comes also down to the bottom line cost.
Everything has-
Hand up to the yellow shirt, very patient.
Maybe we should put asphalt.
Oh! That's all good.
I don't know if you remember, I think it was last summer.
Yep.
And I put you on the spot, and I'm happy you told me at that time, you can agree with that on volume. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay. I don't think roundabouts tonight. I don't think it's gonna hold any kind of traffic down. Extra, I think right now, I'd rather us pay for the damn stoplights ourselves. You know, we had a swimming pool we couldn't use for 2 years, and we paid $2.5 million for it. So what the heck? But, I live 2 blocks down. Camper, I take out every weekend. That's gonna be a pain in the where getting the camper to, Castle. I'm sure I'm not the only one with camper in this meeting. You know,
I will say, and I'm not a truck driver, but Alliant Engineering, through their design, they run what's called an auto turn program. And they're basically running full semis through this roundabout. And can accommodate.
did Alliant get paid to do their survey?
But that,
Did Alliant get paid to do their survey?
to do their survey.
Yeah. To do this whole study, did Alliant get paid?
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you whatever the hell they want to tell you. I mean, you're telling this guy over here how he gets into his house. Do you park there every night? No.
And I wanna know why should I-
Yes, sir. I see your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else?
Oh, I know.
Thanks, bud.
I guess after all, the low-ball solution to this, you're saying you want basically 2 things, slow traffic down and give access off the Rhinehart. Why don't you pop 3 stop signs into the road there?
And whoever said it won't work, it won't work. My friend Dick Grassel was vehement that we put a 4-way stop at 6th and Bygland. It was up for a matter of just a few hours and cars got so backed up all over. And I didn't know of it at first, so I was still calling for 4-way stop. And it just, the flow, the volume of traffic is too great. And it just cobbled up everything. So I love it. I've pushed hard. Whereas if Nancy Ellis was here, how many times I've said, Nancy, 4-way stops are cheap.
45 minutes a day.
Yeah. 9 months a year, 5 days a week. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Which looks pretty long on your map. How many people off the Rhinehart or off some, whatever you want to call it, come down Fifth? Are they coming down the Myers Street? Is it already?
So basically at Fifth, this would still be a full intersection.
I'm on Fifth, right?
Yep. So it shouldn't affect you. There's Orchard.
Here's the alley. Yep. Yep.
Wouldn't affect you at all.
Basically, anyone that's on Bygland that's heading downtown or whatever, they're gonna just continue on Bygland. It's really not gonna increase the traffic on.
It should be about the same.
It shouldn't increase the
They're
traffic.
just doing, it just changes how they get on over here. It shouldn't add to your traffic down. Of course. Yeah,
No, we're listening,
for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
The gas station, new driveway will be right here.
Okay, we have another.
We got one more. To get to the gas station. Yes. Yes.
I just called, but
Yeah, their driveway right now is here.
All I can see is on AC, somebody blustery. Is that an improvement? No. By the Point Bridge there where the.
The one here.
folks in this neighborhood right here are looking for on the Bygland Road in the morning.
No, we are. No, we are.
No, but some are.
Oh, how many do you have?
Not, maybe not here, but there's some who have Mr. Vedder's ear that have said, big numbers who have said,
Alan doesn't talk to anyone.
okay, so I get what you're saying. It'll slow the traffic even more. You had someone over here that wanted a question?
Right. He's the owner of Harvard's.
Let's hear it.
So I'm Frank Gordon with Gordon's Convenience Stores. And I guess I want to illustrate a little bit of the roundabout.
Yep.
First of all, I'd like to express thank you for all support. The process and express and one of the things that I will tell you is that from our standpoint, this whole project, whether it's a roundabout, we don't know what the future is. The only way you're going to get onto our property, because it's too small, I don't want to turn around, transport, come back out the way you came, would be to come in here and then X out, coming down here, come in, essentially crossing here and come in. You're not going to be able to navigate a semi out, up around this onto the round. It's just not going to happen, right? I mean, you can't come down here and then with a swinging U-turn with the transport on the property. It's I don't care what your things are showing, it's not going to happen. So the only way that we get trucks in and out of this location under this plan is they come in here, they exit here, and then they meander their way out some other direction. You know, presently they're coming in, coming up, coming back this way, or if they happen to be coming up here, they'll come down and come back out. So that's a huge concern. Okay. You do not. So you're going to have to either purchase this, or you're going to have to use eminent domain to take it and then argue about valuation. You're obviously moving two of our entry points, eliminating this one and moving this one. That may open a different can of worms, I can tell you.
Looking for a traffic light is what you said. Yep, signal. It could go where we decide it goes. It could come back to this, just to be very honest. $800,000. We've priced them out. So yes, thanks. As long as you're up, do you see anything about this? Is there anything here for your facility? If it looks something like this, I don't really like that, but I'd much rather. You know, it's still a pretty nice drive, but instead of that, could it be something else? Do you have any thoughts for if it were to be here? How could you make it better?
So I guess, is this a median here or is this just a turn lane?
That's a median right there.
So if you have a median and there's no turn lane in, you're either gonna be jamming up traffic to get in here this direction. Likewise, as you're coming through, if you're not taking this turn, you got to roundabout your way here. And it looks like you have a median here. Well, how are you gonna get in there, right? I mean, you got to get past this. I mean, if the driveway was over here, I could envision you come back and come around. Likewise, if the driveway was down here and your transport came out, maybe it gets back and goes through the roundabout. But I think there's just a lot of things that complicate this. Just
That would be our goal, is to make traffic by your doors go up. I mean, that's your custom delivery folks. Why we're having this conversation. Now is the time to really.
So now we, thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Spot on. So now, the citizens that have their house right by it, you deserve to give them a better explanation than almost nothing.
Better explanation of what would be done for them, or why we're doing this, or what?
All of the above.
I think the answer.
How would you like it if your business or your home was right there and was gonna be impacted? You put up with it?
I would be sitting in this group and I would be saying, let's figure this out so that at least when this thing is done, if it happens, I'm no worse off. So we need to hear from the
council member would go around and speak to his constituents.
Okay, well, we're here now. This is the exact purpose of why we're here, to go one by one by one. How do we, brainstorm and try to figure out, we leave everybody at least as well off on the back end of this as we're coming into it. That is exactly why we're here.
Don't do it. Simple.
Great.
Now, this looks like it's gonna be a fairly large project, right? First question, would you be able to get this done between school years during the summer? And where do you propose that you're gonna route all that traffic when that is being built?
What do you think? This is an engineering question.
Where's the traffic?
All the beat trucks and the fire trucks and the emergency vehicles.
We, I mean, that would be our goal. We would want to hit the ground running day one school is out, and our goal would be to be completed before school ever starts.
We all made plans, but you know all that.
Then the rain comes.
So how is it going to,
Oh, go ahead, Trent.
how is it going to affect,
Sorry.
okay, if you buy out the homes and the property tax is going to go down, right? Well, where's the money for the city going to get? 'Cause,
You know, honestly, we've not,
property tax, yeah.
we've not thought that homes would have to be bought out. We've not thought that homes would have to be bought out. The hope would be to really let them in and out of the property some way, you know, recreate that if necessary. You know, so we really don't anticipate having to buy out homes for this.
Yeah, but would the property tax go down now? So how are you guys going to get money?
Oh, we're good.
for our property?
We have thousands of residents and I mean, we're gonna, if this happens, it will be something that will work well and we'll just have to make sure that the adjacent properties are left as good as when we started.
What if it doesn't?
Yeah.
And it's true.
Our houses are pretty good. We're looking for that city right there. It's gonna be affected poorly. It's gonna be affected right there. Yeah.
I hear you. Trent, you had a question. I almost got you there.
However,
Yeah.
Rhinehart Drive is not designed for that type of traffic. That's where traffic is on from that drive. And the problem is, we have the horse in front of the truck, right now you got the truck in front of it. I think we convert all this traffic coming out of the cell phone. Bring us up. Very concerned on what you're doing. Roundabouts work. Not saying I'm against the roundabout, I'm not saying I'm for it. Poster child that's closest to us in any community of any size that equals us is Sleep River Falls. And if you look at Falls in the last 5 years, they've added about 6, 7 roundabouts. But we should probably answer that question better than I am, but there's a lot of roundabouts in that community. Talk about truck traffic. Look at those roundabouts, look where the tire marks are on the roundabouts. Can't get semis through the way that you can't get large equipment. That's always brought up with the school. Very good points. I think the city, we're going to have a study on what they're doing. Where we're going to spend. We have other road projects done. Now, all the information that I do, it's rather contentious with some of the people. See that, and you're not going to do much more other than just. That you have to slow down with what you're
plus yours, looking for a bridge, longer than that. Go back to your father and my father, uncle trying to get a bridge. Taking forever. It's gonna take probably another.
Very patient.
Very big. Everybody needs to be patient.
Yeah.
What the city has done with that bridge, saying that we don't have any money. I'll take this to the next step because people are asking, how are you going to pay for these things? Isn't it interesting that the city is able to come up with money for an auction to buy that land? Yet you're trying to put a sales tax on I as a business. Any other business. We pay for various projects. We're funded and you have studies. At $15 million to go by a plan that should have been applied. Has to slow down. Start getting a harder look at. Appreciate where the going on this. It's close, back and forth. Conversation and discussion. Don't think we've done the study properly. Now the gentleman, Mike Anderson, that talked today. Fine. Did he know that we were going to put a bridge in something to these?
Oh, yes. Yeah, his analysis showed it. Actually, this whole corridor gets better with the South End Bridge. Yeah, and he knew it. He showed it both ways.
It's very cool. This room has nothing showing that. South End Bridge location. Hold on. It's just nothing to Rhinehart Drive and then filter all the neighborhoods. How was that traffic pattern? But argument. Or can you flash? Stop signs.
Yeah, the Hawk system.
Yes. Would that be more appropriate?
There's a homeowner right over there.
Yes. Are you on here or is it? Okay.
Right there.
I know it well. Believe it or not, that's the house I was born into. Yeah. Well, that was where Tyler Johnson used to live, right? Yeah, yeah. So that's the home that my folks were in when I was born. Yeah, I know it well. And yeah, we've got to make sure this.
Yeah, like I tried to mention earlier, we would probably open up this meeting basically in front of these homes. So it is, let's say you're coming home for the evening, you basically be able to turn.
Anyway, they'll be all slowing down anyway. I mean, it's just, yeah, you're just darting in between. That'd be a little tougher.
That would be a little tougher.
They don't make it better. They don't make it worse. It's neutral for pedestrians. In my view and everything I've read, it's no better, no worse for pedestrians. If I think there's a pedestrian safety issue at an intersection, I wouldn't fix it with this. Yeah. So it's no better, no worse. So I mean, as far as like worsening the conditions for pedestrians, it'd be neutral, but a Hawk system improves it remarkably for pedestrian crossing. Thank you. And I mean, we gotta factor all this in. We gotta look at how you're gonna get your boat and then your ice house, whatever it may be, snowcat trailer. I mean, I got all that junk sitting around my place too, not the ice house. Oh yeah, oh yeah. There was another hand. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my question is, why can't we put a stoplight for the left hand turn?
I love it. MnDOT basically all but stops it. If you have no warrant, they basically make it virtually impossible to put up a traffic light that they don't want. That's, I mean, MnDOT, Minnesota Department of Transportation, they're the ones. Pretty sure that wouldn't be compelling.
Steve Nicole is a recent.
Nicole.
Hello. I just wanted to mention a couple of things, just in regards to roundabouts in general. One, I agree that you wouldn't install a roundabout strictly for pedestrians, but it does make intersections safer for pedestrians. Like if you look at the width of the crossing right now, compared to as you make that two smaller connections so that as any pedestrian is out there, you only have a shorter distance to cross. You're only concerned about cars from one area at a time. You're not left standing in the middle of the street. You have a pedestrian refuge there that you can stand on and wait while the other cars pass. The other thing is that the roundabout will slow down traffic. So now instead of crossing a street that may have a speed limit of 30, but if it's a long straight road, people are going to be going faster than 30. Not all of them, but people will be. So there is a big safety component. What we see across the state for sure is that oftentimes the Department of Transportation is able to get highway safety improvement funds from the feds, primarily for roundabouts to create safety in intersections. Their locations are probably less based on pedestrians and more on traffic accidents and, you know, the kind of incidents that you have where there's right angle crashes often, the kinds of crashes that cause fatal injury, you know, fatalities or serious injuries, things like that. I mean, that's a lot of the things that can be helped by roundabouts. I realize that's probably not, you know, there's probably not a lot of fatalities happening in this intersection. People aren't driving at as high speeds and things like that. But the roundabouts really do create there's a safety thing with that. I struggle to see how by putting in a roundabout that would cause property values to decrease. I mean, I think some things people are gonna have different opinions. I'm not gonna say, I can't tell you definitively it will or it won't. Personally, I struggle to see how that would create it. There was a gentleman that came and pointed at the screen, which I couldn't tell where you were pointing, about where your house was and like where headlights were turning. Cars are turning in all the same directions today. So my guess from what I was hearing is that it's one of the houses on the east side of the road, kind of near the intersection, but I don't know for sure.
I was going straight south, would get flanked to the right, and then forward and then go on to the south. So a straight southbound car would not flash their house, but a southbound car with the roundabout could flick the lights toward those homes and then continue on. So indeed, there could be some additional light hitting those homes from southbound traffic.
Okay. And that's where I couldn't, I mean, I couldn't see when anyone was pointing, and for us online, the audio gets pretty chopped up. So there's a lot that is hard to hear. So I'm trying to kind of piece things together from what I've been hearing people say. I know from past experience on projects, people are often very skeptical of what we come up with based on running auto turn. But I know that when we will run those, and there are people who drive those vehicles who confirm and say, yeah, I can totally make that turn, or they tend to be very conservative. So if I can make it happen through the software, the people that are driving the vehicles can do a better job than I can do. But again, there's a certain amount of, I use that software all the time. It's a common tool in doing my job and in developing geometry for roundabouts and all the other different highway elements that I work on. But it's not something that you guys are used to. So I know that there's kind of a trust there, that you have to trust that I'm doing what I can and I want to make this work and I don't want to impact people's properties and I want to give people the best access I can. No, I mean, am I getting paid to do this? I am, but I still have an ethical element of what my job is. So I'm not just gonna come up with something that's just to make something, just to make people happy. If I don't think it works, then I'm gonna say that. I mean, I'm gonna do that. So I think we're trying to come up with a solution that can help solve everyone's needs. And I think we want to be able to incorporate and address people's concerns. But I think you also have to be open to the ideas and to the possibility of some of these, you know, different alternatives and ways that we can make things work. So.
Right. Nicole, anything else to add? You're gonna give me him an extra before too long, so you know. All right.
I'll be done unless you guys have any other specific questions, so.
Oh, yes. You're right. What do you got? Both Steve.
That's the engineer. Yeah. You have it all on. Rhinehart Drive used to be a farmer market road, and it was a state aid street. That's still currently the case, or is the designation changed?
No, it's still State Street.
Did the same?
Yeah.
It is stated.
It's a State Aid
So
Street.
they used to call it that. Okay, but it's still a state aid street. Is there any avenue that's already a state aid street, we put some type of signalization there?
Again, it comes down to the warrant issue that we've been talking about.
We did have a warrant for that location, or down moved in, when Cresco was here.
Yeah, now we
In fact,
don't.
the year before the flood, we got that.
Now we
Then
don't.
the flood hit, boom, everything changed, school moved, traffic patterns changed. So on.
Thanks, Punky. I do now that we've had this good and robust conversation, how many of you changed your mind and now support the Roundabout? Okay. Any other questions?
Listen to the citizens or no?
Of course, that's why we're here.
Why don't we get a vote?
We got the vote. I haven't seen too many yeses.
That's because you don't, that's why you don't want to vote.
Oh, no, I already have the vote, is what I'm saying.
Is there a way that we can find out what stoplights would cost?
We priced them, we actually priced them at 13, and that number of 800-ish is within like $50,000.
All right, so why don't we have the vote? Over here would chip in and pay $800,000 to have stoplights.
We can't put them up.
I got $20. That's all I got.
So we have to put them up here.
We just can't. And I'm for stoplights. I raise my hand for stoplights anywhere. I said, that's just for pedestrians. That doesn't let the vehicles in. This doesn't meet the warrant for pedestrians, but that did.
47th Street is where they want to have it down there.
That's one opinion. Dana, one opinion. Wait, look, there's a question here, and she's been very patient. Okay, wait, you can have 3. Okay.
And that's for vehicle going school, or where are they going to find out? I don't care, but how much does a roundabout slow down? Cars, fires, trucks, anybody that can get there in a matter of like.
We'll pose that to our police and fire guys. You know they do it.
I mean, I would say it's gonna slow them down from the fact that around Bygland right now, you can go 50 miles an hour. As you come through the cul-de-sac. But, I mean.
Right, and I'm all for it. You're out of the fire.
Okay, number 2.
The fire chief, as I walked out, grabbed my hand and shook it. So, thank you.
Yep. Number 2. Is this still number 1? Okay. Yeah.
longer drive it, no longer use the buses that are free. Federal money would pay to have monitors on buses. If I remember when my kids were around 36 and 33, of course, I was very I mean, I just remember when my kids would quit riding the bus because boys, but there was girls going to beat them up and they were small enough to get beat up.
I will say, I've talked to the guys, the folks at the school, ISD 595, they've worked hard to improve safety on the buses.
You know, but it's
They
all on
put
the
cameras on there. I mean,
What are cameras gonna do if there's a kid pounding the shit out of somebody
well,
else?
at
in the
least
back
there'll
of
be
the bus?
consequences. At least the kid will be out. And then,
And that's what the ambulance comes from.
hey,
But I mean, you know where I'm going.
I mean, the question of why are not kids riding buses?
No,
Is
what I'm
it
saying
you
is
don't
there
want-
money that you put, that
Right.
federal money,
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
yeah,
put an extra person on the bus.
But I
It's
don't
just
know-
let the driver.
Only about safety, like some people don't want their kid to stand on the street at 20 below for half an hour. Somebody else doesn't want them, you know, to be out that early because I gotta go to work at 8 o'clock and they gotta be out there at 7:30 in the morning. What, I mean, it's just, so there's some other factors too. Yeah. I think a constant effort toward that would be especially helpful for this corridor, no doubt about it. We can partner with ISD 595 and try to figure that out. Yes, oh, yep, go ahead.
Can I have 3 questions?
Yes.
Okay, so
Oh, did you get your third?
I got you.
Oh.
So what brought this?
No.
No. Why are we talking about putting around?
I think it's safe to say, go ahead, yes. Yeah,
I just want to know the reason.
okay, it really comes down to this. You know what it comes down to. In general, we can say it's a vehicular access problem or challenge,
For who?
especially for people to the west of Bygland Road in the morning that want to go north. That's the big subset, the left-hand turning folks. And then the second probably is people who are bringing their kids to school who live to the east. But really the focal point, really all this would solve, a roundabout at Bygland and Rhinehart would solve the access, turning left, especially in the morning from like 7:40 to 8:10, those 5 days of the week, 9 months of the year. Yeah, that's really the peak of it.
So for half an hour every day, it's an inconvenience.
No, not every day, just 5 days a week, 9 months of the year.
How about traffic?
So you only have like $800,000 in state money, right? It's gonna cost about 2 million to put it in.
Yeah.
At least $1.5 million.
I'm not gonna do that, but for the rest of it, we're gonna end up paying in our taxes just
We do.
for an inconvenience for half an hour a day.
We do have that, the state allocation, we do have the state allocation we can apply. Okay, but yeah, so it
Because
won't
I
hit
have the
the,
same problem every morning. I'm on 8th Street right here,
yeah,
and I have to turn left.
yes,
Yeah, I gotta wait for 2 lanes of traffic, but it only takes a couple extra minutes when there's traffic.
at the peak,
Okay,
otherwise it doesn't.
so it's not an issue. It's not an issue.
I hear you. Did you say you have a third one? Or is that what?
I think I rolled them all in.
Okay, perfect.
I want to know the diameter of the crosswalk.
120? Yep. 120.
It's 120 feet, so semis have 120 feet from one edge to the other edge to get to. And it's what size semi did you get? Because there's a lot of different sizes.
It's WB 62. It's a bigger full size car.
W2 what?
WB 62. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right over here.
Others of that size. It's not even Billy. He's just being sarcastic. No, it's, you know
Well,
what?
the roundabout ain't there right now.
No, yeah, so that's a good joke. But we looked, we ruled out anything resembling a mini roundabout. Those were never even considered. we thought about a 110, and that 110 was the running one for a year or two or three. We said, no, take out any chance of problem, go to the 120. And that's where we ended up.
120.
You have trouble with a 120, the one by Menards? Have you been through there with trouble? Oh, yeah. But that's, you got knuckleheads. I mean, we got tire marks on our street, so. But could you handle it? Have you been with your truck through there? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm late. I was listening to you, on the TV from last night. I finally realized, well, geez, here's the fence I got to do. But anyway, I live on 10th Avenue and I heard about this roundabout. I could not understand why. What is the reason for the roundabout? I'm sorry I'm late. Probably these arguments have already been had. But what is the primary reason for the roundabout?
So the biggest challenge we have is for vehicular access to Bygland Road, especially in the morning from the west, turning left headed north for about a half an hour in the morning, from about 20 minutes to 8 until 10 after 8 on school days.
And that is the problem. School. Put the little darlings on the bus. Hey, they will let you spend a nickel.
You're right.
Why not?
I mean, how do you mandate that? How do you put the little darlings on the bus? I have no idea. Hey, anything else?
Yeah.
Oh.
When the person at Rhinehart would still have to wait for people to go around the roundabout to get to school?
They slow down. It's because it's a merge though, you're kind of coming in and to her point, roundabout adds a high measure of safety, vehicular safety to an intersection. However, at this intersection, we have, at least last I heard it documented, one collision that's been documented. And I'm told it was an old fellow that got confused and kind of spun around and hit a power pole. So anyhow, to your question, you merge in, you're kind of coming in at about the same speed. You really just need that small space of a merge in, merge out. Yeah. So, but you heard me say, I don't think they add an ounce of safety for pedestrians. I still don't think they do. They don't hurt, but they don't help. But they really add safety for vehicles because they do just, it's all statistics. Yeah, right. But the number of crashes will be less, which we've had 1 in a million years, so that's not an issue. And then the severity is less because instead of getting T-boned, you end up with more of coming in and getting brushed. So less injury. But we have had no injuries. So I mean, but if we're talking about the statistics on roundabouts, forget about this application. A roundabout adds a measure of safety for vehicular accident. Is it necessary here? That's still in debate. But it's not even, we can't even question. It's all across the nation, all across the world, less frequent, less severe. Now, still a question of, do we need it here? Yes or no?
No.
I see who doesn't over here.
They're not on a major road. Okay, they're already in an intersection. All you're gonna do is back up traffic more. And if you've ever waited out there, you know, yeah, okay, it's only 2-3 minutes, but to me it seems like 45. But you're gonna get out of that roundabout on TV. Oh yeah. Okay, well, they're gonna shit can it.
What would you have said if we were, what would you have said if we're not on TV?
They're gonna put it right, waste that money.
Before we go, hypothetical. Is anyone, I do have to say one thing to the homeowner right there, just in full disclosure. Maybe a little bit of. Purpose of why here is to, what would be the adverse effect on any of these properties? But we would want you to be aware that that is among the possible scenarios, is that we may have to acquire a portion of that. And of course, we know that this is in play. We don't know yet how to resolve those.
I'd like to,
Go ahead.
no, I was,
Okay. Thanks, you guys. So just wanted you to be aware that if you want to have that conversation back and forth. Yes.
Something for that small amount of time. And I want to go on some factor. I don't want to try to. How about some yield signs? How about some signs that say, yield to people who want to turn, be courteous.
No, we-
I
to
know, just be courteous. And let some people. I mean, it seems like you're trying a big ordeal to just. I'm trying to think of the best one. So maybe a PR campaign.
About 1.5 million. I saw a hand back here. Yes, sir. Oh, everybody.
That's gonna back up everybody's mind. Still not allowing access. It's not gonna change a thing. And like he says, when they get through it,
Bam.
they're gonna be
On the gas.
bumper on the gas. Nobody's gonna get in. The only thing in South is Rhinehart.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. And I do feel, well, before I get to you, and I'll remember, before we get, and then we'll get to you. One argument that we really have not properly covered is those who might support a roundabout. In such a group as this, is there anyone who would like to speak to the pros of a roundabout, something we may have missed?
Yeah, see, that's why I don't.
All right, so, yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're going to this bridge up south, that will change traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Yes.
if I'm going to South Grand,
Gonna be-
morning, I would probably take a right rather than a left.
It will unload this
Right.
corridor a good bit.
So why don't we spend this money now on a bridge?
We're pushing hard. We're pushing as
I've been
hard as
here
we
52
can.
years and we've heard about a bridge.
Really, if it were up to our side, of course, the bridge would have been done. But we're getting a little bit of a stone wall from our good buddies across the way. Actually, no. I've spoken firsthand to that individual multiple times. And he's just gonna step aside. He's not gonna be for or against, he's gonna step aside. I'll leave it at that.
It's kind of solution, big problem, but you have way to do it. You have 15 minutes earlier.
Yep.
Then I had a.
Item. Or go back to my wife.
You don't want to divide up husbands and wives over this. It's not worth it.
Or she wouldn't take offense to it. anyway.
No,
We
I'm
know
saying
we're-
yes. Yes. So maybe a median here. Oh, that big one there. One of the goals for that big median kind of by South Point was to create that safe haven for kids crossing so they could cross halfway, get safe, get reconnoitered, and then continue on. You know, that's kind of a philosophy of pedestrian safety is let them take half the street, you know, catch their breath, look around, and then get going to the other half. And so that's part of this too, is to create those kind of zones. Yeah.
Again, that's all things that are, I mean, maybe we can probably pull that median back. You know, that could be adjusted. And again, those are all things that are taken into account for final design. I mean, you gotta remember, these are just concepts, right? These aren't the final plans.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is one of the bigger residential ones. Yes.
Yeah. And again, that's what Alliance Engineering is currently doing, is running different buses, trucks, kind of through it with that Autospur. And again, right now, they're showing that they can accommodate a full-size semi.
One more thing to worry about. Van Forest Councilman. Rich.
You think it's just a little inflammatory with that? You think there's just a little rhetoric with that? Tiny bit. No, he's just playing games. That's a little gamesmanship. So in the next probably 20-30 minutes, we'll be walking out that door. And it would be a real tragedy if anyone, honestly, particularly anybody adjacent to this possible roundabout, walks out with anything unanswered. You know, and there's no dumb question, there's no nothing. I mean, if you have any lingering concern, question, this is why we're here. Yes, sir.
I'll throw this to Steve. The engineer might be the guy in the way, it might not, but I throw a low wall, 3 stop signs. That backs everything up. If there's something that you can put in that's gonna operate for an hour, shuts down for the day.
Also, I think would probably be some type of traffic signal system, but again, all comes down to work and cost and how you pay for it. That's why the roundabout was recommended, because there was a funding source to be able to do it.
That's it. It's gonna come down to the money. Or at least a third. I'd say at peak times. Yeah. I saw a hand here. Did you flicker a hand right there?
Well, I was just wondering how many of the council members live on the south end? Why are you so bored?
I do. And by the way, you know where I stand. I'm representing the city council right now and the opinions of my friends on the council whom I respect. And you know my preference. My preference is I'm not a big roundabout guy. But I do live on the south end. I happen to live on the east side. I have a real easy time getting in. Right? I'm heading up to the downtown area from the east side of Bygland. It's not hard to make a right turn and go. It's a lot harder to make a left. So it wouldn't be for me that it would benefit because I'm south and east. But the really tight majority of the council wants to see it, and they represent also a certain constituency. And I'm here speaking on their behalf because they're good folks. Wait, 1 second. I had a hand here.
I come off of Merrill Court and make a right turn, you're right, easy. But no, during the school year, there's still traffic. I'm going over to achieve therapy. for fitness in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
I leave 10 minutes earlier, that's not a problem.
Piece of cake. Darn right. Yes.
You just said that you represent city council.
Yep. Of course. But in saying anything favorable about a roundabout right now, I have to carry the will of the council to you all whom I love so much. Okay, but I mean, this is what we're doing. Oh, yeah. I serve you and you and you and you and you. Yes, sir.
We have a problem with that statement.
What's that?
You serve the will of the council.
The will of the people, of course.
Well, but 2 seconds ago, you said you serve the will of the council.
Anything I say favorable about a roundabout is carrying the request of my council members.
That's the problem with this city.
There's no problem. We're listening, we're hearing every word you say. I serve you.
You're just building anyway.
No, not necessarily. This is helpful. This is important, this dialogue. Diana,
Are you gonna get the final dollar value before this gets voted on? I wanna know the actual.
I want to know it too.
I wanna know the cost to every single taxpayer in the north and the south and the middle of the state, all the way down the line,
Yes,
before this is voted
I
on.
want to know it too. We all want to know that
Here's
number.
the calling.
You can't vote for something that you don't have a bottom line dollar. It's like buying a car and they say, oh yeah, it's $100,000. Oh, that's a lot.
And I want it advertised.
He said
and I
yes.
want the real.
Yeah, we need the numbers.
Real.
The one thing I will say, and again, not saying that this roundabout project is gonna be the project of these federal sub-target dollars. But if we, the city council, don't make a decision of how to use these funds, they are gonna go away and another community will use these funds.
You have other ideas.
Pass up $860,000.
For something we can sleep well.
There are places already that you said that money could go.
Well, there's places we can use it, you're right.
You I just say that you've already said there's other places, and before this is a vote by the city council, I hope we as a taxpayer will know the final dollar, the true final dollar that is coming out of my taxes for this project.
Can we know what the other places we can put the money on?
He's already told
We
us,
might
they already
identify
told us.
other-
Make suggestions, but they don't tell them more about it.
You know, as a matter of fact, that the project of record isn't even the roundabout. We started out the meeting with that.
Told us already.
The number one identified project is that awful stretch of 10th Street Northeast. It's either non-existent or completely busted up. It pools water when it rains. It's so bad that the trucks and cars got to go up on the driveway of the businesses in there. Yeah, that's our identified project. But we're hitting some snags with that one. We are. That would be our number one choice. Just know, you got a piece of infrastructure that's past its lifespan and you have a chance to plop down $860,000 to make it nice. When you're trying to build jobs in your industrial park, we like it. Just know that. We like that one.
Are those snags over, can you
I vote
overcome
for
those
it.
snags?
Sorry again, Dan.
Can you overcome those snags on them?
We're working.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I-
and give this more
I'd
time.
rather be in the private sector because you just write the check and say, there, we did it. But there's too much when you got fed and state and it's a lot of hoops to jump through. I stink at that.
What's it gonna cost us, as taxpayers?
Okay, you know,
I mean, we're getting funding from the state and the federal.
Yeah.
What about us? Are you gonna get-
we would honestly not have to pull any out of the general fund against our tax liability to do this project. But anybody could make the argument, when you take money from this fund and use it over here, well, what are you gonna use to replenish that fund when you need the money? Well, we may have to use general fund money to replenish. I mean, really, we get it. Any dollar we spend is your money. But the way this one, it's your money. But the way this one lays out, to build it, there would be sources of dollars from the state and other sources that we would not have to use anything out of the general fund to build it. Again, if you came to an unexpected overrun or expense down the way, you'd probably have to do a little scramble to make it up. We get it. It's all your money.
Joe says it won't cost you a cent.
It's all your money.
I'm sorry to keep haggling on put the kids on the bus, but why? What's the problem?
My kids rode the bus. I don't know. That was a few years
How
ago.
better than walking?
Yeah. Uphill both ways.
Well, and gas, it's $7 a gallon, they'll probably take some months.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, it seems like an easy solution.
Oh, yeah.
but it's Apparently not.
It's hard to get around the supper table of all these families and convince them. That's what it would really take. All right, we're gonna be walking out that door in about 10 minutes.
Are we gonna scratch this still and just put up lights?
There won't be lights, but there may not be a roundabout for a while. I mean, that's all. I think we all, wait, how about this? After all this, now who supports the? We get it. Everybody here, maybe one or two exceptions that are being kind of shy right now, but the majority of this group feels it's not a good use of money.
No light.
And the lights, we can do it, but MnDOT wouldn't allow it, not warranted. So it's not gonna be lights, it's not gonna be a four-way stop. And whatever's gonna happen there, whenever it happens, whether now or 5-10 years, it's probably gonna be a roundabout. Just not gonna be for a long time. Maybe now, might be in. This is all being worked out. It's good for me to hear from you all. You might say, whoever, I serve you and you and you and you. I talk to people all day, every day. I know the sentiment of the people in our community not in favor of this. I told Mr. Vetter, he's got his constituents have told him overwhelmingly they want it. But I've had, no, let me finish. The people that I've talked to, and I've been mayor now for 6 years. 6 years I've been mayor. Having vetoed this, I've gotten more people coming up and saying, thank you for doing that than anything else I've done as mayor. I get it. That's just the sentiment in the community right now. And maybe it stays, and guess what? You are the people we serve. We hear you loud and clear, and we're gonna have to take that and factor it into whatever we do next. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, right on. Not fun. Good point. You gotta know, I had that same thought when I put my thoughts together for what I wanted to start out with tonight. One of the hardest things for any of us to really function, that the environment is uncertainty, or worse yet, misinformation. Yeah. Frank, you and I had that conversation also on the phone about a year ago. So you talked to Steve more recently, but you and I spoke about a year ago, and you told me the exact same thing. You're waiting for the time to put some investment into your facility here, but you just need some certainty. You need a yes or no. You need to see an alignment, a layout, configuration. And I think we certainly owe the same to our homeowners. We need to put it to bed one way or the other, and do the right thing. If it's going to happen, do it right, and make sure everybody's well taken care of just for access. Seriously, don't even think that, I have not seen a scenario where we're having to buy out one house. Okay, I haven't seen such a scenario as that. It may be a few feet here or a little change of a driveway there. So please, nobody walk out and think, yeah, we're all gonna be ready to get bought out, because it's just a matter of time. I've not seen a scenario like that at all. We really believe there's a way, and I hear you loud and clear on in and out with your trailers, and yeah. Oh, yeah, it happens all the time. They're ready to work to resolve that. Steve, can you?
Yeah, we shouldn't get that from the line.
That's just a common problem. There are so many places where driveways go. But thank you, Steve. Would you make sure your name and email? All right, Frank.
I would just say one thing, because, you know, I had actually complimented you guys on communication you've had personally with us, you know, city as well as the engineering firm that reached out, had the conversations. I know we can kind of get beat up a little bit here, but from a standpoint, I think you've done the right thing. I've talked with council, reached out to me before with votes last time. We had an issue like this in Walker where I live, where we wanted to do a state trail from very end of which is our beach lake, and they had some government dollars for the COVID money that's going down the localities, and we came up with, you know, $2-3 million bike trail from the very end of the all the way down to the casino, and we made just like this. And we sat there and as they listened to community members and all the landowners on the way, almost identical. Said, why are we doing it? We want this. Got the same explanation. Well, we got this money and we don't use it here. Well, you know, what happens if somebody else gets it? And the same sentiment, well, isn't there a worthwhile project that if we didn't have money that was thrust upon us, we were contemplating? And out of that meeting, the listening process, you know, they doesn't sound like a report with it, but I think it does sound like there are some projects that help the community, you know, in terms of existing infrastructure. I understand these artificial deadlines, things that you have to work against as a governmental agency, but you know, taking care of some of the stuff you do have with the money that's coming away, projects need to, or people get behind that aren't as controversial. Just saying, and you listen to the people on the South Point, really the ones that should be in favor of this is 5th Street and Rhinehart that have to take the left-hand turn across traffic. Maybe there's a whole bunch of constituents that aren't here pushing that forward, but you know, the people that are running north and south, they don't have a problem once they're on, right?
Correct.
It just runs.
Just
so
getting on.
you get on, you know,
Yep.
so if it's not the people in this room saying, we want this because we can't get out in the morning.
Right.
And I guess the last thing I'd say is I live in Walker, Beach Lake, tourist area. This time of year, guess what? It takes a long time to get on roads that I can get on for 9 months out of the year. There's a lot of people from Fargo and Grand Forks and Twin Cities, and by the time it all calms down in October, we're like, oh man, glad to see them go, you know. But it's just kind of part of life, part of the cities, part of Forest Lake. Just have to work through traffic sometimes.
Thank you, Frank. Yes.
Can I vote you one more time?
Yeah, 100.
Has anybody spoke to the Lawans, which that open lot? You're gonna have, and if you haven't sent them a letter.
She left, Joanne was on. Joanne and my sister Becky have been lifelong friends. I saw Joanne about 1 to 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I know about the ones and they're good people. So as far as this project, you know, they're listening, and when it ever comes up, it's like, well, let's just wait and see, you know, wait and see how it goes. But yeah, so they're privy to all this. They were notified. She did come in on Zoom, and so she is, and so it's Joanne, Michelle. Yeah, they're tuned in very well, and don't worry, they'll be engaged. No worries there. Yes. You know, we'll all be fair. You know, that's, if it ends up in some kind of litigation, you go back and forth, going for what's fair. That's all we're doing. All right, hey, in about 2 minutes, we're gonna be walking out that door. Anyone leaving with any unanswered questions, concerns? Thank you so much. Oh. Yeah. Yes. is bad. Especially when there's train, the train clears and now stacks, then you do wait for 4. Green arrow. Yeah, we deepened the stacking lane, you noticed that, so that was favorable. And a green arrow with a pressure pad would be big. We've talked about that. It's all down to money and priorities, but yes. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you guys so much. Good to have you here.